Good morning. It is September 17th, 2015, and I would like to welcome you to episode 125 of the We Are Yarn podcast. Thanks for joining me in my craft room.
I'm going down to the drugstore, buy a big old skein of yarn. I'm gonna knit me a kitten, even if you don't give a darn.
Okay, so it's been a while since you've seen me. I know I said I was going to record at least a week ago, and then that just fell through. I don't know if you guys keep up on social media at all with me, but the week before Into the Wool, I was told my OB I saw that day, because there's 3 in the practice. The one I saw that day said she would be surprised if I made it to the following Wednesday after Into the Wool and still be pregnant. So I did not get to go to Into the Wool. I am still pregnant, but that's okay. I am 39 weeks and 3 days today. I have a doctor's appointment later. We'll see how that goes. I'm really done though with this. Ready. I'm over it. I do want to say, I'm not going to call all of you out specifically by name, because I feel like that's not really nice to do, but on this kind of media. But all of you who have knitted, hand knit gifts for me, thank you so much. I am in a community with so many talented, amazing women, and the fact that you spent a little bit of your time on my baby is really, that's so thoughtful, because I have barely spent any time at all on my baby knitting. So the fact that you have really is touching. So I really appreciate it, and thank you so much. I will be getting actual, like, handwritten thank you notes in the mail, I promise, when I get around to that. I have a lot of stuff spread out on my table that you can't see, but you're going to see here in a minute. It's been so long. I have been doing a lot of knitting. Some of these things you haven't seen in a while, some of them you haven't seen at all. So let's just dive right in. The first off, I know everybody's wondering, has she finished the blanket? Right? Because that's the big thing. I did finish the blanket. So this is the by Appalachian Baby Design Baby Soft Blanket. It is, so this is it in a quarters. It's pretty big, really. About 36 inches square. And get up a little bit closer so you can see. I did the crab stitch border. And I think this is the best crab stitch I've ever executed. I'm really, really pleased with it. Yeah, I did end up using I did have to break into, it called for 5 balls. I did have to, which I had, but you remember I was a little nervous on the episode where I couldn't measure my gauge. I was a little nervous that I was going to run out of yarn. I did end up breaking into that 6th ball that my sweet Aunt Norma sent me from the shop there in Florida. So, yeah, even though my gauge seemed to be spot on, you know. And I did wash this. I'm washing everything. I wash all of my clothes because my husband has some sensitive skin. Excuse me. Milk today. I'm looking forward to when I can just go wild with the coffee again. You guys, you cannot begin to understand how excited I am that I'm getting so close to being able to just have as much coffee as my little heart desires. I wash everything in my house with All Free and Clear. And so this has been washed in the washing machine with the All Free and Clear. And then I put it on low heat in the dryer, and it turned out beautifully. So I highly recommend this yarn for baby knits. It is really soft. To be a cotton, and I'm wondering if it's because it's similar to you know, like dishcloth cotton, that sort of thing really hurts my hands. Like, and that's the testimony of many knitters these days, is that it really bothers our hands. And one of the cottons that I have knit with that doesn't really seem to charge the battery pack. Oh, let me go get my plug-in. I'll be right back. Okay, well, I thought that my battery was charged. It's been plugged in since I saw you guys last. Apparently, some point it got unplugged before it got completely full battery. This was the camera that was coming to the hospital, so it's a good thing I found about that now. Anyway, one of the cottons that I have found that doesn't hurt my hands at all is the Volla's color changing cotton. I don't know what it is, but if you're not familiar with it, she runs 5 to 8 strands of cotton, very fine, like thread fine cotton, side by side, and doesn't actually ply it together. It's just loosely there. This Baby Soft, Appalachian Baby Soft cotton is very loosely plied. So now I'm a continental knitter, so I guess the way it's plied, it came unplied when I would knit with it. And I'm wondering if that's why my hands never bothered me working on this. And I worked on it, guys. Even though it was a huge project, I carried it with me everywhere. I got a lot of love at my doctor's appointments. It got a lot of love here at the house. It got some love at work when I was able to take the time to work on it there. Lots of love. I knit this on my US 7 4.5 millimeter needles. I use the cubics. And yeah, I think that's all I have to say about that. Let's move on. I did also, when I was supposed to be having my baby back during Into the Wool, I remembered that, so I've talked about this before, how I feel like I have a baby curse, that when I knit for babies, things go wrong, or if it's right up in the case of one of my co-workers, she really wanted to go into labor, and so I made her a hat and took her a hat that day. Just a little 2-hour nothing cap out of some self-striping yarn that ended up really cute because that's self-striping yarn, but she ended up going into labor that night. So I was like, maybe I can call upon the powers of that baby knitting curse for myself. So that weekend of Into the Wool, when I wasn't able to go, I finished this blanket, and that didn't work. And then I decided to cast on this sweet little hat. So this is a baby hat out of fingering weight yarn. It's called the Easy Peasy Newborn Sock Hat by Carrie McLaren. And as always, I'll be linking to all of my projects, my Ravelry projects, which I make all of them public so that anyone can see. And there are links through there to all of these patterns and that sort of thing. That's one of my things, is making sure everything is in my project pages. But yeah, so it's just a sweet little hat with a rolled brim. I had thought about not putting the little umbilical cord on top, but I did go ahead and do that. This yarn is, the yarn is actually what inspired me to make this little hat. It is Happy Go Lucky Tardis and Shadow. And it is just the perfect blue. It's going to match his little going home outfit perfectly. So I'm really excited about that. And I'm hoping maybe, they have the professional photographer come by and take some pictures before you go home. I'm hoping that that can be used for those pictures. I did that on, that's a free pattern. I did that on US 2.5, a 3 millimeter needle, as called for. Baby curse doesn't work on yourself, apparently. Still no baby. Or maybe it's reversed for yourself. Maybe I shouldn't have been knitting anything and he would have already come. I don't know. Alright, so then I wanted something a little more, after making the baby hat, that I got that surge of finished project between the baby hat and the blanket, and I wanted to finish something else, but I had nothing anywhere near close to finishing, so I picked a worsted weight pattern that I thought I could finish fairly quickly, and I did. So this is the sadly unblocked Inverness Diamonds Cowl by Daniela Richardson. If you remember, last year in the fall, about this time, I made a hat and mittens as a test knit for her. This is the cowl, and unfortunately, with the way the light's showing, you cannot, there, you can see the diamonds. Yeah. It is a little bit variegated for the diamonds, but I've been really surprised that that texture still shows up. I made the longest size, so, you know, I can be all nice and cozy that way, or hair, or wrap it around like this and tuck it. And I'm sure after I block it, it'll even be a little bit longer. So you can do it kind of more scarf style, or you can just let it hang, I guess. But that'll be a really nice set for this fall when it starts getting really cold. It is starting to get chillier here in East Tennessee. Our low overnight has been Fahrenheit. The lowest was 47. I think last night the low, or when I woke up this morning, it said it was 54 degrees outside. But it's still getting up into the mid 80s. So, not quite, since I'm not having to get out in the morning, it's not quite hand knit weather yet. But that's my Inverness Diamonds cowl. This is out of the Unwind Yarn Company Wanderlust Worsted. And this was a one-of-a-kind colorway. But I really do feel like it's really similar to one of her other colorways, the name of which escapes me right now. But it was a really nice, I did the bottom border and a lot of the first diamond one night, then the next day I did the next diamond, the next day I did the next diamond, and the next day I did the border and the bind off. So it went fairly quickly. I was really proud of that. I have one more finished object that is not knitting. You guys who have been moms recently know about the Moby wrap. That is ridiculous amounts of money. I don't know why these baby carriers are so expensive for what they are. But I wanted to be able to try out doing the Moby wrap. Just in case that's what my child was gaga over, right? So when I started pricing them, I did not want to spend that money. I did not want people spending that kind of money on something that I was not 100% certain that I would even use. So I took myself to Pinterest and found there are several tens of tutorials on how to make yourself a Moby wrap. A lot of them are no-sew. It calls for, I'm going to give you the secret sauce, because why not? A lot of them call for buying 5.5 yards of a knit stretchy material, ideally cotton. I couldn't find any cotton locally, so I didn't. I just got the rayon, whatever. So 5.5 yards. Keep it folded on the selvage like it comes, and just cut it down the middle, and you have 2 Moby wraps. It's really that easy. My Hobby Lobby though, Hobby Lobby is really the only place and Walmart are really the only places that I know of to go for material like that, clothing material. So I took myself down to the Hobby Lobby, and they did not have 5.5 yards of any knit whatsoever. So there are sewn tutorials where you do the same thing. You lay it out, you cut it down the middle. And the one I used, you taper the ends that will be tied, and then you do a French seam in the middle. So the reason I wanted to share this, though, I can't find my seam. Here it is. Here's my seam. This was my first time sewing knit fabric. My seam is not the best, I will admit. This was my first time sewing knit fabric. This was my first time having to really play around with my machine to get the right, not gauge, what do you call it on the sewing machine? The right tension on the thread. It was my first time having to play around with different stitches on my machine, and so it was very much a learning experience. That's why I wanted to show it to you guys. And there's my little seam. She walks you through a French seam. I did not do the final part is tacking down this piece that pokes up. You can see that on the ridge. Tacking it down to complete your French seam. I did not do that. I decided what I had done was enough, and I was over it. I was ready to be finished. So, and then if you have a serger, she says you can go around the edge and serge the edge. I don't have a serger, but I'm not real particular about it. So, homemade Moby wrap. Those are all of my crafty things that I have finished since the last time I talked to you. So let's get going on to the things that I have not finished. How about it? Alright, first off I have on my list my See You in September. I'm doing the Rose Beck version of See You in September. So this is, I started this as part of the Knit Along 4 Into the Wool way back, whenever that was, what, January or February? Excuse me. So you guys, I'm sure, remember part of it. I have now finished, or maybe you don't, I don't know. I have finished the lace edge that you probably cannot see because of the variegation of the yarn. And then that second section of the just kind of texture. This is Fibro Fibers, her Knotfall. And this was the Into the Wool colorway last year that ends up being all that brown in the middle. So I have a lot of yarn left, and all I have left to do on my shawl is, I'm running out of breath, is the one more section of the lace that, again, I'm sure you may or may not be able to see. I have kind of stopped and put it down for a few minutes because since I do want to use up all of my yarn, what I want to do, if you remember, this shawl had two sizes, small and big, small and large. The large size took 600 yards, the small size takes like 430. I had 480 or 490. It's quite a bit. 490 yards. So what I have decided to do is to extend this last section of lace to use up as much of my yarn as I can. So I just need to sit down and rework that lace pattern to add more layers of leaves. I don't think it's something that I can do on the fly. I'm going to have to actually do some playing with some graph paper and rewrite it so that I can add more leaf sections so I can get all of my yarn used. I am working this on a US 5, my Knit Picks US 5s. And yeah, it has been an enjoyable knit so far. Let me make sure I've told you everything I need to. I have. It's rotting around in my little bag from Fondant Fiber, the Granny Squares bag. I also, just last night, decided to recast on my Piper's Journey. That's what a Piper's Journey looks like, if you're not familiar. I'm sure you all remember this, that I cast this on very early in my pregnancy to try to get my knitting mojoing again. And it didn't work because I did it completely incorrectly. I had read somewhere where someone else who had knit it, the way the pattern's written, and so that I don't really give away the secret sauce, you increase X number of stitches on each end of a row and then knit back. Instead of having to keep up with if you're on the front and back side, she increased X number of stitches on one end, knit all the way down, and then the next row increased X number of stitches and knit all the way down. So you're still increasing the same number of stitches over 2 rows, just spreading them out. I had tried to do that and failed miserably. I'd made a square instead of a crescent. So I ripped out when I was at the end of a full ball of my yarn. And my yarn is Razzle Dazzle 4 from Long Hollow Surrey Alpacas. This is a wholly Tennessee product. The alpacas live in Tennessee. The fiber is processed in Tennessee, and then it was sold to me in Tennessee. But it's this fun, sparkly sport to DK weight. So last night I finally cast that on again, and I made a few modifications because I really like the lace border, but I did not want all the lacy bit along the top edge. So instead of following Paula's directions, and not because she is not a genius, because she is, but because I wanted to do my own thing, I did a garter tab cast on. And then instead of doing yarn overs for my increases, I am knitting front and back. My only concern now is that it's not going to quite be stretchy enough. So from here on out, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to knit 1, yarn over, and then do my increases as normal. And then on the return row, I'm just going to drop that yarn over so that I get a little bit more yarn on the edges so that there's more room for it to stretch when I go to block it. I don't think this little bit will be highly affected by not being done that way, and then the rest of the shawl will be done that way. So that's that. And that seems simple enough that I could probably, you know, people take knitting to the hospital for labor knitting. I'm not 100% certain I'll actually need that. But guys, a knitter is never without her knitting. Is that not correct? So this is a possibility to take to the hospital. What I actually cast it on to take to the hospital, oh, this is in my Twisted Fiber Studio bag. Twisted, yes. And in my Knitter's Nightmare bag, I have cast on some Sakis. So these would be for me. That's the first part. They look like, right now, they look like the candy corn, right? With the orange and the yellow. They are not candy corn. They are some of my Felici. Are you surprised? Because I have so much of it in the Fizz colorway. And if you remember, when I first bought this, I told the story about how in high school my nickname was Fizzy for reasons I will not go into today. But when I saw the Fizz, I had to get it because it's me. This yarn was made for me. And I thought that having just a simple sock that would be ideal for knitting while in the hospital. I am going to do the vanilla latte, vanilla bean, vanilla latte. I don't know. I have it linked on my pattern page, but I'm doing the little slip stitch detail between the stripes on the top of the foot and the leg, like is so popular these days. And I'm working these on, I think they're, yeah, these are Addi Turbo, my sock rockets. US 1, 2.25 millimeter. I dropped it. Oof. Leaning over to pick things up is getting harder and harder and harder. I did not do any spinning because my feet are swelling. But that's all the knitting I've done. I could stop there and we'd have a pretty full episode. But I have some acquisitions. I took myself to the Tuesday Morning one day. And I was looking around, and I tried to avoid the yarn section, guys, because going in Tuesday Morning and seeing the yarn there, it's like going to the pet store, not the pets, like PetSmart, and seeing the little kitties for adoption. You just want to take all of them home because you feel so bad for them in their little cages. I feel so sorry for this yarn that has been just thrown into ugly boxes at Tuesday Morning. I was good this time though. And I only got 2 kinds of yarn. And they're kinds of yarn that aren't in my stash. And I felt like I could see them in a project. I'm a sucker for Araucania yarns. And this was there. Can you tell? Yes, you can see that sparkle. So this is Araucania Andaline. It's a, it's not cable or chain. Oh, what do they call that? Let me see if I can get close enough for you to really see. Because of the table, the camera's way far away from me. You can kind of see how it's applied together there though. I wish I could remember what's that called. I bet there are people out there just screaming it at me. It's not a cable, it's not a chain. Oh well, it's gone. But it's squishy, and it's soft, and it sparkled, and the colors really spoke to me. The tag has really faded. I had a hard time working out even what kind of yarn I had. But they had 2 that matched, so I got them. And it says the usual price is $21, and I got it for $10 each. So I felt like that was a good deal. If you're not familiar with Tuesday Morning, it is a, I wouldn't call it resale, but when companies have produced too much of something, or they're having a hard time selling it, or for whatever reason, Tuesday Morning buys it from them for pennies on the dollar and then sells it back to you for the consumer for cheap. That's what they do. They also had this Debbie Bliss angel print that I also got for right about half off. Excuse me. But it's like, you know, it's a Kid Silk Haze kind of thing going on. And it was in these beautiful jewel tones. They had some that were in neutrals, like a cream, a gray, and a brown that were really pretty. But the jewel tones really spoke to me. I kind of wish I'd gone back and gotten the neutrals now though. Just because of ideas that I've had since I've been looking for things to do with this. I originally bought it because there are all these shawls patterns that incorporate the haze along with a fingering weight, and you hold them separately, so this works up at a much bigger gauge, and then they just all look so pretty. But I thought, I had this in my stash, this lace weight from 2011. It's a Skacel merino lace, 100% merino wool. It says it's shrink resistant, so it must be superwash. But in this green, and I thought that I could hold these double. Wouldn't that be pretty? So I'm thinking about holding these double to get, in effect, a fingering weight, and then doing something with those. So I got 5 of these, and that is 1,000 meters. And then I have 1,400 yards in this, so that's good. And then maybe we'll make something fantastic out of it. I'd really like to see it turn into a fingering weight cardigan, kind of like a featherweight, that sort of thing. That might be nice. And then, since I wasn't able to go to Into the Wool, my friends were very kind and brought some fun things back for me. Since I had paid and just wasn't able to go, I did still receive my goodie bag. So my goodie bag from Into the Wool did come to me. And my goodie bag yarn is from HD Yarns. So this is hand-dyed self-striping. It says it's a glimmer. Does it sparkle? It looks like it does just have a little bit of a shimmer in it that I didn't notice before. But this is It's About Time, and it'll stripe up like the Doctor Who scarf. And this is the picture on the front of the box. So that should be fun. They did go ahead and do a door prize for me. Oh, and they told me this is an orifice hook. I unfortunately do not need an orifice hook. But I think Absolute Wonder. The Absolute Wonder is who made the orifice hook. And then I got some Northbound knitting. This is my first Northbound knitting. I'm very excited about it. Lost Bird is the name of the colorway. It's a merino silk comb top. So thank you, Northbound Knitting, for donating that so that I could get my grubby hands on it. Looks like it's going to be really subtle color changes. I'm probably going to end up stripping that down into 3 or 4 long pieces and Navajo plying that. I think that's the way to handle that. And then from the market, my dear friends purchased for me from the Color Wheel. You guys know I love the Color Wheel. And I've made some socks in this color, and they thought it'd be fun to have a hat or something to go with it. So this is her Tulips 6 striping in a worsted weight. I'm really excited about that. And then I also received from Amanda the Color Wheel Oncoming Storm in her Strong Sock in this beautiful blue, which I'm sure you all know is a Doctor Who reference. So I think I did pretty good. My acquisitions, I've been trying really hard to use more, send more yarn out of my stash that is coming in, and I don't think that happened this last month. That's okay. And I think that's all I have. I have no idea how long I've been talking since I had to go get the plug-in Dilio. But I feel like this was a pretty good episode. I know I talked a little fast, and I'm sorry about that. But I have a lunch date with my mommy today. Since my life is about to get a little bit more complicated, I've been trying to go out to eat as much as I can. Just so that, yeah, you know, when life gets a little complicated with a little baby, for at least a couple, 3 months. Hopefully I will have gotten it out of my system. Do you guys want to see a bump? I know you do. I did not test this before recording, so I don't know how this is going to work. Big loud noise, because I'm going to slide the chair out of the way. And here he is. There's sweet Isaac. He, yeah, he's running a little bit lower, I guess. I don't know. My mom has told me today I have to take my hospital bag with me to my doctor's appointment, because she thinks they may direct admit me. I'm hopeful because I'm so ready, but I am not convinced. So I'm going to let you guys go. Thank you so much for joining me in my craft room today. Again, at weareyarn.com and on the Ravelry group are links to my project pages and probably to the sweet people that had donated Into the Wool. If you're interested, I can link to the tutorial I used for my Moby wrap. And get in touch with me, Mandy, M-A-N-D-I, at weareyarn.com. My name on Ravelry is Mandy Cat, M-A-N-D-I-K-A-T. And, or you can leave a comment on YouTube, on Ravelry, or at weareyarn.com on this episode. Thank you again so much for hanging in there with me, and I really do hope that in the next several months, as I get used to my new normal, I find a new normal of sitting down with you guys on a much more regular basis. Next time I see you, I'll probably have a baby wrapped up in that Moby wrap attached to my chest. So until then, take care, happy knitting. Bye guys.
I just can't wait to finish. I got the kitten knitting blues. No, I just can't wait to finish. That's why I got those kitten knitting blues.